Oh, good afternoon, everybody. It is Saturday, April 14th, 2018. Gold Guts and Guns half hour here on YouTube. My name is Tom Luongo. I hope everybody's having the best day that they can considering current events. A lot I want to talk about today. I don't know if I'm going to go short or long. Probably long. I apologize. I'd rather try to keep this at a half an hour, but I don't think I'm going to. Okay. Let's start with the obvious. Last night, President Trump and his military advisors lobbed 103 missiles of various forms, including Tomahawks, at the city of Damascus, various supposedly strategic chemical weapons factories around the city and outlying areas. Syrians are claiming that they intercepted over 70 of the said offending missiles. Not sure I believe that number. But even if I don't believe that number, even if I only believe 50, considering that the hardware that was used to shoot down said missiles, that's still an impressive number. Nothing better than the highest upgraded versions of the Russian S-200 systems were in use last night. So let's go over the details of the attack now that we know we have some things. We have some clarity, because last night I was on Periscope, and while things were unfolding, and in that moment, things are going to be incredibly emotional. Now, for those of you who are potentially new to this, have been a Trump supporter and did vote for the man. I am also a hardcore libertarian who doesn't normally vote because I don't like to encourage them. So understand that my geopolitical analysis comes from that perspective. I am not analyzing the world as I want it. I'm not analyzing the world in any other way than what I see. Okay? I don't have a dog in this fight other than I want to see the world a more peaceful place. That's my goal. I don't know what anybody else's goal is. I don't give a fuck what anybody else's goal is. That's where I'm coming from. So if I have rose-colored lenses on my glasses, it's from the perspective of hoping that everybody in power is actually working towards a better tomorrow, as opposed to what the cynic in me says, which is that the worst people in the world are actually running it. All right, so let's get right down to the brass tacks. I just published an article over on my blog over at goldgoatsandguns.com, which you can read, entitled "Trump is Done, Mattis Won, Thank the Gods." Yesterday, I published an article saying, hey, are Mattis and Trump trying to run out the doomsday clock on the neocons? Before that, I told everybody that the coup was complete and that Trump is done. And the reason I believe all of these things are still true and that yesterday's article was only half right for the following reasons. I firmly believe that Donald Trump is done. I think that he's been completely neutered by his deep state opposition. I don't think there should be really very little doubt about that. And the only thing that stopped us from World War III last night was General James Mattis, who's been advising Trump for over a year not to escalate over emotional responses. Trump acted and responded emotionally to last year's supposed chemical weapons attack at Khan Shaykhun, in which he bombed the airbase at Al-Sharat. Now, the MAGA crowd wants to believe that this is Trump and Putin talking behind the scenes and stagecraft, managing all this, and that's all stagecraft. That's a lie. That's nice. It's rose-colored glasses. They think that the man is more with it, smart, and insouciant than he is. He's not. Okay? That's one of the things I go over in my article today. Seymour Hersh, in June of last year, published an article explaining what happened. Okay? Trump reacted emotionally. He's not a man. He's not well-read. He's not nuanced on these things. He's not a deep thinker. He's a man who reacts instinctually to situations. And he's willing to roll dice in his negotiations. But when you're the president of the United States, those kinds of die rolls get people killed. And The only good move that the man, unquestionably good move the man has made since he became president was he made Mattis Secretary of Defense. Because Mattis has told him on more than one occasion, no, we're not doing that. No, the military's not going along with that. Stamp your feet all you want, you fucking enfant terrible. We're not doing that. Now you can do this. And that's what he did last year. 53 Tomahawks that we lobbed at Syria last year were a Goldilocks option, kind of a compromise. Allows Trump to look strong, look like a bully, make his big statement about this being an unacceptable situation, even though logically there was no reason for Assad to have gassed his own people. Even though logically it could easily have been a rogue colonel, commander, general, the Syrian army that decided to take matters into his own hands. Could have just as easily been that he bombed a known target, as Cy Hirsch claimed. It bombed a known target. Everybody knew that the attack by the Syrians was coming, including the bad guys. And they moved chemical weapons in, precursors in order to frame the Syrian government, knowing full well that Trump would go off half-cocked. And so now we have this year. The Brits have been setting the stage for 2 weeks. I've been talking about this on YouTube for the last 3 weeks now. The Brits have been setting the stage for this. The Russians came out this morning and said, by the way, it was not Novichok. It was a BZ nerve agent, known to be in the hands of not the Russians, but the US and the United Kingdom. This was a Swiss independent lab with an impeccable track record who came to that conclusion. But it's only the Russians and RT that's bringing this information to light. And now we're sitting here having to, and those of us who question all of this stuff are now and getting off the Trump train, which I've been pretty much off the Trump train for a while now, only hoping that he still had some semblance of control. Still marveled at the fact that he was able to find wins, even though he was completely compromised in so many other areas. And that I hope that his domestic wins were actually going to translate into foreign policy wins. And it looked like, about 2 weeks ago, it looked like it had happened. And then the deep state struck back and struck back hard. And Trump's not a strong enough person to stand up to that. That's just the truth. That's what happened back in April of last year. And history repeats. Rhymes, because men are fallible. Men are easily understood. Easy to corrupt one man. It's easy to mislead one man, even if you don't believe that Trump has been corrupted. And that's a fair assessment. But he's done as president. Because what's going to happen next is the following. 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, I wrote an article saying that I felt that the Skripal poisoning was all an elaborate setup to scuttle Brexit and destroy the May government in the UK. Well, since last year's snap elections were designed to remove her from power and they failed, and she's had to go along kicking and screaming with an Article 50 declaration and a Brexit negotiation that nobody wants, and that nobody in power in the UK or the US or Europe wants. The people want it, but the people don't fucking matter. Elections don't matter. There's too much money at stake for elections to matter. What they're so angry about? What's been going on? So everything, anything and everything will be deployed to stop the populist movement. And at this point, having thrown so much at Trump and at Brexit and at Catalonia and at Viktor Orban in Hungary and the Italians and the French and everybody else, and the Russians and the Syrians and the Iranians keep winning in Syria, even though Trump sits there and brazenly takes credit for their efforts, which the Russians don't even comment on, even though that's an unbelievable fucking insult. When it's been documented by the fucking BBC that the United States military has been allowing ISIS safe passage out of Syria so they can go fight us in Afghanistan. Because there are pet Salafish head-chopping jihadists. We need to make sure that they're not destroyed completely because we may need to use them again someday. Don't you understand? And for this kind of analysis, which is just regurgitating and synthesizing the headlines, I now have people openly wondering whether or not I'm in the pay of Vladimir Putin. I got news for you guys. I wish the fuck I was. Because it'd be great. I'd actually have some freaking money. As opposed to being shadow banned on Twitter and Periscope and fighting an uphill battle to try and get people to subscribe to my newsletter and all of this stuff. Truth tellers don't make any fucking money in this world. They get deplatformed. You have to work 10 times harder and be 10 times better to break through the fog of war and the fog of disinformation and the fog of morons who just want to say, no, really, Trump is just orange Jesus and he's going to lead us to the promised land. No, he's not. Flush out your headgear, new guy. You think we waste gooks for freedom? And this is why Trump is done. Because when this is all over, you're going to already see it in what's happening in the Security Council. Normally, under any circumstances, we can count on 9 votes in the Security Council for anything. It's going to begin to change. It's already beginning to change. Because the evidence is going to be overwhelming that the Americans and the Brits, in order to try and cover up their false flag attack on Skripal and the May government in the UK, most likely to cover up Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS and the trail that leads all the way back to the Trump dossier that they used to mobilize illegally U.S. intelligence assets to stop a rival political opponent from winning an election. I mean, you're talking about a conspiracy so freaking big that it threatens the very fabric of our government, the very fabric of our society. And in order to stop that, these people want to take us to war. And the only thing that stopped that this week was James Mattis. As a sober military commander who understands that the Russians don't bluff, and who has, in 3 years of fighting alongside the Russians in Syria, has gone out of his way on every occasion to ensure that there is no conflict between the Russians and the Americans. And the one that has happened, which was apparently the one, and we're not even sure that this one actually took place, but the one that supposedly killed 200 Russians in late February of this year, which Mike Pompeo, who's, by the way, just a mouth-breathing moron. Mike Pompeo's an idiot. He's not even a village idiot. But it definitely took a village to raise that idiot. He stated that he was proud that we killed 200 Russians. They were mercs, if they even died. Which prompted Vladimir Putin to say, oh, by the way, we have all these weapons that can wipe the United States out in no time flat. And since then, the neoconservatives and the Israelis and everybody else have lost their freaking minds. And that's where we are. Regime change window is closing. It's now or never. We have to go to war to stop everything from being outed and 75 years worth of plans collapsing. And Trump is not strong enough or smart enough to navigate it. Because if he was, he wouldn't have bombed al-Sharat last year, and wouldn't have bombed Damascus last night. He would have stood up to those people. He would have turned to his fucking base and he said, this is what they want me to do. You get out there and tell them not to do it. No. What did he do? He fucking caved, and now they're out there today calling everybody who's upset about this a fucking traitor. Just like they did last year. because they believe in their orange Jesus. They believe in their cult of personality. They believe their own hero narrative that Donald Trump has very carefully concocted around himself. That's the only way he's going to stay in power anytime soon. But I got news for you. As the worm turns against him and May over this, they're going to be set up as unfit to lead their respective countries. You want to know how they're going to get an Article 25 or an Amendment 25 resolution passed against Trump? You want to know how they're going to get an impeachment? Articles of impeachment against Trump through? This is how. They'll just label him a war criminal. Doesn't matter that Obama was a war criminal. Doesn't matter that Clinton was a war criminal. Doesn't matter that Bush the Lester was a war criminal, or Bush the Senior, or Reagan, or Eisenhower, or Kennedy, or Nixon, or anybody else. But Trump, no. Trump has upset the apple cart. He has dared to not go along, to get along. He's still trying to do his best. He's still trying. I will give Donald Trump some credit. He is still trying to oppose these people. He's opposing them on certain things. He's winning on certain fronts. But foreign policy is where he was elected. Ending the wars is where he was elected. The critical precincts that won him the swing states, that got him the electoral college majority, were all in zip codes who had lost the most people in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan for the last 15 years. Without those votes, he loses to Hillary Clinton in an electoral college and popular vote wipeout. And he's too fucking self-absorbed and he's too fucking stupid to see it. He spends his entire day watching Fox News and worrying about his image. Not doing his goddamn job. So Mattis had to do it for him again last night. And everybody who argues with me about this and says, well, it doesn't, he doesn't lose anything. Yes, he does. Because it takes two to negotiate. It takes two to tango. He's getting ready to have a summit with the North Koreans, a potentially historic summit with the North Koreans. Who in their right mind is going to negotiate with Donald Trump now? And even if they do go to the negotiating table with him, the Chinese, the Russians, and the North Koreans are going to extract maximum pain. Just like I said last year, there's no upside to this diplomatically. Geopolitics is not won on the battlefield. It's won at the diplomacy table. It's won at the negotiating table. When you prove yourself to be a faithless negotiator like Obama and Bush, and two, an unreliable partner, or at worst, someone who's not actually in control of anything, no one's going to make a deal with you. The biggest mistake, strategic mistake Trump is making as his presidency is not living with the Iran nuclear deal. Rex Tillerson was right about this. You have to live with it. Doesn't matter that you don't like it, you self-absorbed fucking buffoon. Work with it. Because we made the deal. Doesn't matter that you don't like it. Subvert the deal. Find ways to make the deal irrelevant. Render it moot. But don't abrogate it. You abrogate it, you're just giving your opposition all the ammunition they need to walk away from the negotiating table. And you know how dangerous the situation is. You know how fragile the world markets are. You know how fragile the US economy truly is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have run for president, Orange Jesus. Think it through. Actually do some multivariate analysis. Actually engage in a little 4D chess. Amazing. It's moronic. Silly. Where we are. You have to remember that you are not him. What do I mean by that? Look, I'm a really smart guy. I can analyze this stuff and I can analyze these situations in real time. Like very few people on the planet. I'm not busting my hand, patting myself on the back. I just can. I'm very good at it. I spend most of my day, not when I'm not doing this, playing strategy games that are way above most people's heads. Okay, this is what I like to do with my life. I like to think about multivariate analysis. Balancing a 5 and 6 player chessboard. I'm good at it. I'm not great at it, but I'm good at it. Actually, no, I'm excellent at it. Sorry. I'm not good at, whatever. And I know that this is what it takes to finish this job that he's got in front of him. And he's not capable of doing it. And I wish he was. And I can see this. And so just because I can see it this way doesn't mean that Trump can see it this way. We all have to remember is that just because we're capable of multivariate analysis doesn't mean that, oh, well, he's the president. He's got to be able to do that. No. Why do you believe that? I've been arguing with guys like Adam Gingrich and Tony Sankey and the rest of these freaking people for so goddamn long on Twitter and on Periscope. I'm like, guys, he's just not that smart. I'm going to get the Shanebo. I'll get to what Putin's going to do in just a minute. But I see your question. I just want to acknowledge it. Just because we can see the answer does not mean that he can. He's not getting good information. He's surrounded by advisors who have an agenda. The man can't even get a second fucking lawyer, for Christ's sake. No one in the lawyer community will actually represent Donald Trump. He's got one lawyer. Guy should have, I was talking to my friend of mine the other day. He's like, Trump has one lawyer. What the fuck? He should have 6 or 12. The man should have an army of lawyers working for him, telling him how to crafting policy decisions for him, crafting strategy decisions for him. He's got one guy. One. It's just a conspiracy. It's obvious. No friggin' lawyer will represent him. I mean, you have to put it all together. He's just a man. And he's fallible. I hate to break it to everybody, but watching the MAGA crowd this morning, I was on Twitter last night with Cassandra Fairbanks and others, and we're just sitting there going, guys, it's not a cult. It's a mistake. Denial is the first stage of grief. Move on. Grow up. Okay? And these people look like the same ones that are complaining about The Last Jedi, not, raping their fucking childhood. I'm like, my God, people. Get a fucking grip. All right. Shane asked, quite succinctly, what do I think Putin's going to do? Not much. And the reason why is that he doesn't have to. And for the new people in the audience, this is my normal mode of speaking. I'm a very passionate guy. This is not to mean that I'm angry or upset. I do this normally. This is the way I talk. I may not come across great. This is the way I am. Now, what will happen next is Putin's not going to do much because he doesn't have to. He's going to continue to do exactly what he's been doing, which is to reference international law, rightly so. And he's going to reinforce Syria. Syria is going to get S-300s now. The Russians have not given the Syrians S-300s out of consideration to people like Israel and the United States and others who've asked the Russians quite forcefully, don't give Syria S-300s. If you do, it'll unbalance the chessboard and blah, 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 blah. And that'll be a non-starter for any further negotiation. Okay? And for years, Putin has acquiesced to that. Again, okay, I won't do that. But in exchange for that, you're going to do this. And then they never do it. The United States hasn't kept one promise with the Russians since Putin came to power. Not one. One that matters. Okay? Got to remember that. So, Putin's going to give Assad S-300s. And more. The Iranians are going to get the contracts to rebuild Syria. They've already gotten some of them. They're going to move into Daraa next, which is closer to Israel, which is going to drive Netanyahu up the fucking wazoo. It's going to drive him up the wall. But the Israelis can't maneuver now because the Americans showed up last night and didn't do anything. But on a big light show to avoid World War III. Israel's actually the big loser here. They just lost all their cachet with Russia. All that goodwill that Putin and Netanyahu have built up over the years is gone. 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 Putin's going to do exactly what he wants to do. He's going to tell the Israelis to shut the fuck up. Someone's going to finally tell them to shut up. They had their opportunity for peace. They just lost it. The attack last night was the best alt-right recruiting film you could have ever asked for. That's how dumb Trump is. Okay? He took credit for stuff that he hasn't done. He refused to admit that a lot of what he did was in service of Israel. And then, after making an unqualified pledge to back Israel in all things, he didn't just betray them last night by not actually knocking out either Hezbollah's or Iranian targets across the country. Went out of his way and he had to, because Mattis understood that he was told flat out by the Russians, if you do that, if you stop our ability to wipe out Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Western Syria, that the gloves come off. And you will start losing subs, and you will start losing missile frigates, and you will start losing satellites, and you will start losing all of it. We'll start losing mercenaries in Afghanistan. You will start losing mercenaries and contractors that are embedded with the Kurds in eastern Syria. Okay? There will be infiltration attacks on CENTCOM in Doha. There will be consequences that you are not prepared for. And the American people are not prepared for the casualties that would be coming. So what's Putin going to do? Very gently push. He's going to take territory, metaphorically speaking. Going to out the Brits. Because look, when they out the Brits as when they out MI6 and the CIA, and probably the Mossad, as the perpetrators of all these hoaxes, think the governments of those countries are going to survive? We've been asking for months on this channel and in my newsletter and on my blog and everywhere else. When is the sovereign debt crisis in Europe going to start? Well, when's the pound going to start to fucking collapse? When does all this start? I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago. Is Putin winning the war of attrition against the U.S.? Which I categorically said yes. Putin understands that this is a long game. It's going to cost him a little bit with hardliners back home. They want him to make a big show. Never has. He never will. I'll read the comment threads over at Russia Insider and Fort Russ, and the Russian trolls will be out lambasting Putin like you wouldn't believe. And the Americans will show up and go, look, see, Putin didn't do anything. No, he didn't need to. The fucking S-200s took down everything we threw at them. Syrians are going to get the best S-300s. The S-300s, I guess the Mark IVs or whatever. They get the best ones. At that point, Israel is in serious danger of being wiped off the map. Right? unless they decide to go nuclear. They don't have the authority to do that. They have to get that authority from us. Mattis just told everybody he's not willing to go risk nuclear war with the Russians over Syria. Do you think he's going to be willing to risk nuclear war with the Russians over some oil exploration in the Golan fucking Heights? Because that's what this is ultimately about. So that's what Putin's going to do. Not going to do much. Not going to look like he does much. Other people are going to do things with Putin's blessing. That's what's going to. Anybody else got any other questions before I start thinking about what else I want to talk about? We're at 32 minutes, so I'll open the floor up. I know that the comments are on a 30-second delay, so but ultimately this is about President Mattis at this point, and the next stage of this is the people who were in charge of the United States and the UK are now going to be looking to figure out a way to get rid of Mattis, and they're going to Bolton and Pompeo and the rest of them are going to be putting immense pressure on Trump to get rid of Mattis. And if you want to know what you can do, because I've been saying for days now, like, you gotta stop looking at this as a cult of personality of Trump. Trump is just the messenger. This is our fight, our country. Steve Bannon was right when he said, "Did you really think they were going to give you back your country at a goddamn fight?" Of course not. So fight, dig in, figure out what you can do. You want to know what you can do? You can continue to back Mattis in every way, manner, shape, or form. Doesn't help right now that the Russian media, like Russia Insider's running Marco, the lead editor over at Russia Insider's got the lead article of Russia Insider right now. And it's pretty much, thank God, he said the same thing I did independently. He said, Mattis won. Thank God for President Mattis. Because otherwise we'd have something horrible on our hands. Well, so that's going to have to be countered, because right now the U.S. media, CNN, everybody's going to go freaking crazy saying that Mattis betrayed the country by not allowing Trump to do what he needed to do, because that's what Bolton and the neocons are going to say next. What do I think the next provocation will be? It'll be in Daraa, right? What's going to happen next is that the Syrian Arab army, having gotten rid of the front in eastern Ghouta, they now most likely will move down to Daraa in the south, which will put them right next to Israel. Mattis last night gave them carte blanche, gave them an open door to stage another false flag, chemical weapons attack. And so the next provocation will happen down in Daraa. Most likely. Wherever the Syrian Arab army makes their next, or they try to get, they're trying to make this, they're trying to remove fronts from the war. So they were fighting a 5-front war, now they're fighting a 4-front war, or whatever the hell it is. And now they're just trying to work everything out. So the next one is in Daraa. Then it'll be Al-Tanf, which is where our guys are, training ISIS in the desert. Mattis doesn't talk about that. This is the reason why ISIS, never seems to die. It's because we're training them in the friggin' Syrian desert on the Jordanian border. Give me a fucking break. I'm not happy about President Mattis either here, by the way. Like, don't take any of this as I'm lionizing Mattis, and now all of a sudden I'm on the cult of Mattis team. Fuck that noise. I think he's as dangerous as the rest of them. I just thank God he's an adult when it comes to actual military confrontation, because he understands that wars get people killed and they spiral out of control very quickly. Okay, so Liz Sandy asks, will Trump be allowed to have more domestic wins, i.e. lock her up? Maybe. I think some of these domestic wins, one of the things I said in my article this morning, Liz, was that a lot of Trump's wins, when you start to really review his record, didn't come from him. They came from the fact that he's there and he gets to be the vessel by which these things are, he's the focal point for the bad guys to focus on, while Trump's supporters within the various alphabet agencies and whatnot come in and support him through leaking information about, one and the memo and this and all of these things that have come out over time, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and everybody helping him navigate this. So we have to continue to do that. So the people, see, I don't buy this LARPing shit from like QAnon and all this. I really don't buy any of that crap. I don't buy QAnon. I don't buy 0 Hour. I don't buy any of these fucking people. I think they're all a bunch of fucking LARPers. Okay? I think that they think they're all a bunch of fucking LARPers. I mean, honestly, guys, you don't think that I couldn't write the shit that QAnon writes? You guys have been with me for a year and a half. You don't think that if I really wanted to sit down and like throw some stupid shit up on 4chan, that I couldn't craft some talking points and throw them up on 4chan because I can't read the tea leaves? Are you kidding me? It's not that hard. Nothing I've seen from that guy has showed me that anything is really, that he's really on the fucking ball about anything. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you can see the game board 3 or 4 moves ahead, you can just write them down and then look like a fucking genius. It's not that hard. That's why you guys follow me, for fuck's sake. So I don't believe any of that shit. So will he be allowed more domestic wins? I don't think they can stop the domestic wins because I still think there are enough people on his side and still see that he's enough of a lightning rod to expose the truth. Even though he's kind of like, it's almost like he's almost like Homer Simpson at this point. Kind of, you know, he's just walking around doing shit and everybody, you know, and the world is exploding around him. There's a better metaphor than Homer Simpson, but because that's really not fair. I mean, Trump is far smarter than that. I'm giving him credit for. He is not dumb. He is driving a lot of these domestic wins in some ways, but he's also getting a tremendous amount of help. And look, he's not Orange Jesus. He's not gonna be able to do this job without help. That's the point. That's not denigrating him or his character or the job he's attempting to do or anything else. He has limitations. Understanding those limitations, talking about them in a rational manner is what we should be doing. It's what we should be doing. I wish we would do more of it. But you can't do that with people who are you know, religious fanatics at this point. That Trump is going to lead us to the promised land. No, he's not. We're going to lead us to the promised land. The man was never anything more than the messenger. More people needed Forrest Gump. Thank you, Liz. Perfect. Forrest Gump. He's just smart enough to know, to put himself in the right position and to do. I mean, he's smarter than Forrest Gump, obviously, but he's in that place. Will the Israelis come out from the shadows and engage directly? No, they can't. They're in no position to do. The simple fact of the matter is that the Israelis took advantage of this shit over the weekend. They thinking that Trump was going to go to war on Sunday. That they really did think that Bolton had gotten to his ear hard enough that he was going to war on Sunday, and it didn't work. And then that left him out to hang. Just checking on the Slack channel. You guys are responding to me behind the scenes, which I think is really funny. I'm sorry. And just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, because sometimes, you know. The Israelis, I think, are going to have to really put it back in their... They're going to have to put it back in their pants, and they don't like it. Sheldon Adelson is going to go freaking ballistic, by the way. He wanted a wider war. And that means, and again, the point I haven't touched on yet in this 39 minutes worth of talking about this is that what I said in my article. Trump's done. He gave his resignation speech last night. Okay? Doesn't matter. He's either going to be impeached. Okay? He's either going to be impeached in Article 25. I did earlier. Or he's just going to be one-termed out. Because the base is going to remember this. I'm not going to vote for him in 2020. Fuck him. I'm done. I'm never voting for another president as long as I can live, unless his last name is Paul. And I'm not even sure I'd vote for Rand Paul at this point. I don't know that Rand Paul can't survive this. Because here's the point. I didn't get to make it in my article today. I'm going to make it here now. I've got at least 2 or 3 other things I need to write about this scenario, because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of angles to this, and I did 1,600 words today, and I could easily done $4,000, and that would have been silly. I mean, like, well, fuck that. I might as well just package it up and call it my newsletter, for Christ's sake, and at least charge people money for it. Trump is not Putin. What do I mean by that? When Putin took office in 2000, right? When Yeltsin first offered him the job, Putin went home and he thought about it long and hard. He didn't immediately accept. Like, this is not a great honor. The country's a mess. It's imploding. The society, the Russian society in 1999, 2000 was imploding. They were losing 1 million people a year. Awful. There was no hope. There was despair. The country was falling apart. They had a deep state problem that was unbelievable. The government was completely under siege from foreign actors. They were being betrayed from within and without. The military was non-functional. Chechnya was breaking away. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, all this stuff. And Putin looked at the situation. Man at that point, middle age. Putin's what, 65, 66 now? 50 years old. A couple of kids, a wife. A family. He knows damn well, having grown up in the Soviet system, that this is going to get ugly. And he thought about it. And he sent his family into hiding. And then he took the job. Now he talks about it in different terms than that. Well, I just knew it was going to be a hard job. I was going to have to devote my life to it. That means I work 12-hour days every day. I don't get any time off, blah, 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 blah. Cost him his family. He's divorced. See his grandchildren very much. Okay? Sure, he has, complicated relationships with both his ex-wife and his daughters and grandchildren. Not an easy life. That's sacrifice. When I have to listen to this fucking horse shit from the MAGA crowd, he didn't have to do this, and he had a great life, and he could blah, 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 blah. Yeah, bullshit. You haven't given anything. Did you send Melania into hiding? Did you send Barron into hiding? Did you send Ivanka and Donald Jr. into hiding? Were you ever willing to sacrifice any of them on the altar of the country? Because if you weren't, then what the fuck are you doing? Because the people you're fighting against are. They're willing to use those people against you. I said earlier that I play strategic, multivariate strategic games all the time. There's a reason why I do this as opposed to anything else. You don't want to know what goes through my head, truly, when I start analyzing these situations, what needs to be done. Because those things are awful. I've talked about it at times, past. I'll joke about it on Periscope. Hey, let's just nuke the poppy field. It starts there. That's the beginning. I wouldn't last 20 minutes. It would just take my ass. I would go to the White House armed every day. Okay? I would sit down at staff meetings with a pistol in on the desk. Just to remind everybody, I'm committed. Play fucking games with me and I'll put one between your eyeballs. That's the way I would play. John Bolton, you have a job. Clean out the fucking National Security Council. You fucking cross me and I'll put you in a fucking gutter. Everyone's gettable. Trump's not willing to do that. Trump's got humanity left. Okay? Putin played that game. Putin had people shot. He had people killed. He had people disappeared. Put them in prison. Nationalized Yukos. He did all sorts of things. He understood that the fight was going to be one of total war. It kills your soul. It destroys it completely. You're willing to sacrifice your soul to beat these people. Choose to do that. And go home. You choose to fight in a different way. Take the job on. There's only one way to fight the job. There's only one way to do the job. You half-ass it, And they have you. To Donald Trump's credit that he still has a soul. I appreciate it. I just knew that from the beginning, since he had a soul, he was going to lose. So I don't blame him. But you have to face the reality of it. Denial is the first stage of grief. I'm well past all that. It's the MAGA crowd that's going to have to go through. They couldn't go through it last year. If Donald Trump, if good things come out of Donald Trump's presidency, it will be in spite of him, not because of where I am right now. It'll be everybody around him being smart and getting the work done. And using the distraction of him as a means by which to get it done. But the problem is, now that he's been neutered, everybody knows that he's neutered and he's wounded. Nope. He's now the guy wearing the meat dress in the lion den. He's the zebra with the big red X on his back haunch. The bleeding guy in the piranha pit. In the shark tank. It's a damn shame. All right, you guys have a great afternoon. We'll talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.